Imagine walking into a children's hospital expecting nothing but smiles, laughter, and heartwarming moments. That's exactly what Mr. Beast thought when he decided to visit one sunny afternoon, armed with gifts, surprises, and his signature larger-than-life generosity. But what happened next left everyone speechless. See, this wasn't just any ordinary visit. Something unexpected unfolded that day. Something so shocking, so unbelievable, it made headlines across the globe. And trust me, by the end of this story, you'll be wondering how someone could do something like that in front of hundreds of kids and staff members. This is the untold side of Mr. Beast's charity work, a tale filled with joy, mystery, and a twist no one saw coming. So buckle up, because we're about to take you through every single detail of what really went down during that unforgettable day at the hospital. If you've ever heard of Mr. Beast, then you already know he's not your average guy. For those who don't, here's a quick rundown. His real name is Jimmy Donaldson, but most people just call him Mr. Beast. He became famous for his over-the-top stunts, massive giveaways, and jaw-dropping acts of kindness. From handing out millions of dollars to planting trees, this man has built an empire around making people happy. But today's story isn't about another one of his big YouTube challenges or world record attempts. No, this time it was personal. It started when Mr. Beast announced he'd be visiting a local children's hospital, a place where kids battling illnesses spend their days hoping for brighter tomorrows. The plan? To bring some light into their lives by giving away toys, video game consoles, and even cash prizes to families struggling with medical bills. The news spread like wildfire. Kids in the hospital were beyond excited. Parents whispered among themselves, saying things like, "Can you believe he's really coming?" Nurses decorated hallways with balloons, and volunteers worked overtime to make sure everything would go smoothly. Everyone expected laughter, tears of joy, and maybe even a viral moment they could share online later. What no one anticipated, though, was that beneath all the excitement lay a secret waiting to surface, a twist so shocking it would change how we looked at Mr. Beast forever. And as the clock ticked closer to his arrival, whispers turned into murmurs, and murmurs grew louder. Something felt off, like there was more to this visit than met the eye. Little did anyone know the events of that day would ripple far beyond the walls of the hospital. The day finally arrived. Mr. Beast walked into the hospital lobby wearing his signature sunglasses and a bright smile. Kids erupted in cheers the moment they saw him. Parents held up their phones to capture every second. Even the staff couldn't help but grin as he made his way through the halls, handing out gifts like a modern-day Santa Claus. At first, everything seemed perfect. He gave away gaming consoles to teenagers stuck in bed for weeks on end. He surprised toddlers with giant stuffed animals almost as big as they were. And then came the cash donations, stacks of $100 bills handed directly to parents who had been drowning in medical debt. You could see the relief wash over their faces. For many families, this was more than just generosity. It was life-changing. But here's where things took an odd turn. As Mr. Beast moved from room to room, some of the kids started acting strange. One little girl refused to take her gift, clutching her blanket tightly while staring at him with wide eyes. Another boy whispered something to his mom, who quickly covered his mouth and shook her head. At first, everyone assumed these were isolated incidents, kids being shy or overwhelmed by the attention. But soon patterns began emerging. Then there was room 312. That's where things really got weird. When Mr. Beast stepped inside, the energy shifted instantly. The two children sitting on the bed froze, their smiles fading. Their mother stood up abruptly, blocking his path. "I think we're okay," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Mr. Beast looked confused but respectful, offering a polite nod before leaving the room. Word spread quickly among the staff. Whispers echoed down the hallways. "Did you see what happened in room 312? Nurses exchanged worried glances. A few tried to confront the family, asking if everything was all right, but they clammed up, refusing to say anything further. Meanwhile, Mr. Beast pressed on, determined to finish his rounds. Yet the unease lingered. More kids avoided eye contact, Some parents pulled him aside, thanking him profusely but hinting at something deeper, something they weren't ready to share. By now, even Mr. Beast himself seemed unsettled. His usual confident demeanor wavered ever so slightly, though he kept smiling for the cameras. And then, just as he thought the visit couldn't get any stranger, someone slipped a folded piece of paper into his pocket. It happened so fast he didn't notice until later. When he finally unfolded it, the message sent chills down his spine. "Stop digging." Mr. Beast stared at the note in disbelief. Stop digging. What did it mean? Was it a prank, a warning, or something far more sinister? His mind raced as he tried to make sense of it all. He glanced around the hospital hallway, searching for clues, but everyone seemed preoccupied, nurses tending to patients, parents chatting quietly, kids laughing at a balloon artist down the corridor. Nothing looked out of place, yet the unease gnawing at him only grew stronger. Determined to get answers, he decided to revisit room 312, the one room that had felt off. The door was slightly ajar this time, and without knocking, he pushed it open. Inside, the mother sat alone, her face pale and drawn. Her children were nowhere to be seen. She looked up, startled, and immediately stood up, blocking his view of the rest of the room. "I told you we're fine," she said sharply, her voice trembling. "Please leave." But Mr. Beast didn't budge. Instead, he held up the note. "What does this mean?" he asked, his tone calm but firm. Her eyes widened in panic. For a split second she hesitated, then blurted out, "You shouldn't have come here. None of us wanted this." Before he could respond, a sudden commotion erupted outside the room. Footsteps thundered down the hallway, growing louder with each passing second. Then, a man in a dark suit burst through the doorway, flanked by two security guards. They moved with purpose, their expressions grim. "Sir, I'm afraid you'll need to come with us," the man said, flashing some kind of badge. Before Mr. Beast could protest, they ushered him out of the room, and into an elevator. The doors slid shut, sealing him off from the chaos behind. As the elevator descended, the man turned to Mr. Beast and said, "You've stumbled onto something bigger than you realize. These families, they're not who you think they are." That's when it hit him. The pieces started falling into place. The strange behavior of the kids, the cryptic note, the panicked reactions of the parents. Something about this hospital wasn't right. But what exactly was going on? Were these families being threatened? Was the hospital hiding secrets? Or was there something even darker lurking beneath the surface? When the elevator doors opened again, Mr. Beast found himself in a dimly lit basement. The air was cold and the walls were lined with filing cabinets and medical equipment. In the center of the room stood a table covered in documents, photos, and maps. As he approached, his blood ran cold. One photo caught his eye, a grainy image of a child hooked up to machines, surrounded by people in lab coats. Scrawled across the bottom in red ink were the words, "Project Renewal." The suited man sighed heavily. "We hoped you wouldn't find out," he admitted. "But since you're here now, there's no turning back. Those kids upstairs, they're part of an experiment, a government-funded project designed to test experimental treatments for incurable diseases." Mr. Beast's stomach dropped. "What kind of treatments?" he demanded. The man hesitated before answering. "Treatments that push the limits of science and ethics. Some of them work miracles, others don't end well." Suddenly the gravity of the situation crashed over him like a tidal wave. This wasn't just a charity visit gone wrong. It was a glimpse into a world of moral ambiguity and dangerous secrets. And now, whether he liked it or not, Mr. Beast was smack dab in the middle of it. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Mr. Beast stared at the documents spread across the table, his mind racing. The photos, the notes, the cryptic labels, it all felt like something out of a conspiracy thriller. But this wasn't fiction. These were real kids, real families, caught up in something they likely didn't fully understand themselves. "So what happens now?" Mr. Beast asked, breaking the silence. His voice was steady, but his hands clenched into fists at his sides. The suited man adjusted his tie, clearly uncomfortable. "That depends on you," he said. "You can walk away right now, forget everything you've seen here, and never speak of it again. Or," he paused, letting the weight of his words sink in, "or you can try to expose it. But I should warn you, people who dig too deep into Project Renewal tend to disappear." Mr. Beast's jaw tightened. "And what about the families? Do they even know what's being done to their kids?" "They sign waivers," the man replied evasively. "They're told the treatments are cutting edge, potentially life-saving. Most of them don't ask too many questions because they're desperate. Desperate people will do desperate things." It was then that Mr. Beast noticed one particular file marked with a red stamp, "Terminated." Inside were names, dates, and outcomes listed in clinical detail. Some entries simply read, "Subject deceased." Others had notes like, "Unstable results, terminated immediately." Each line represented a child whose life had been gambled with and lost. Anger bubbled inside him, but he forced himself to stay calm. Losing control wouldn't help anyone. Instead, he focused on the bigger picture. If he exposed this, it could blow the lid off a scandal that reached far beyond this hospital, but doing so would put not only himself but also the families involved in unimaginable danger. Before he could decide, the elevator doors slid open again. This time a young girl stepped out, a patient from upstairs. She looked frail, her skin pale and her body wrapped in a thin hospital gown. Her eyes locked onto Mr. Beast's, and she whispered, "Please don't let them hurt us anymore." Her voice cracked with desperation, and tears streamed down her face. Behind her stood another figure, a nurse who quickly grabbed her arm and pulled her back toward the elevator. "She shouldn't be down here," the nurse snapped, glaring at the suited man, but it was too late. In that moment, Mr. Beast realized he couldn't turn a blind eye. Whatever consequences awaited him, he knew he had to act. For the kids who trusted him, for the parents who had no idea what they'd signed up for, and for the countless others who might still be saved, or spared from becoming test subjects in someone else's twisted experiment. As the elevator doors closed once more, sealing the girl away, Mr. Beast turned to the suited man. "I'm not leaving until I see every single file in this room," he said firmly. "And if you try to stop me, the whole world will hear about Project Renewal." For the first time the man looked genuinely worried. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," he muttered under his breath. "Then enlighten me," Mr. Beast shot back, his tone icy. "Because I'm done playing games." The suited man hesitated, clearly weighing his options. Finally he sighed and gestured toward the table. "Fine," he said. "Look all you want, but understand this, you're playing with fire." Mr. Beast didn't waste a second. He began sifting through the files, snapping photos with his phone as fast as he could. Names, dates, procedures. It was all there in black and white. The deeper he dug, the more horrifying the details became. Experimental drugs with unpronounceable names, invasive surgeries performed without proper consent, and worst of all, a chilling lack of follow-up care for those who survived or didn't. But just as he reached for a folder labeled Phase 3, Expansion Plans, the lights flickered and went out. Darkness enveloped the room, broken only by the faint glow of emergency exit signs. "What's going on?" Mr. Beast demanded, spinning around. His voice echoed in the confined space, but there was no response. Suddenly, heavy footsteps thudded closer. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the suited man's face, but something about him had changed. Gone was the nervous bureaucrat. In his place stood someone colder, harder, more calculating. "You shouldn't have pushed this far," the man said, his tone devoid of emotion. "Now we'll have to make sure you can't share what you've seen." Before Mr. Beast could react, the elevator doors slammed shut behind him, sealing off his escape route. Panic surged through him, but he forced himself to think clearly. He wasn't alone. Somewhere upstairs were dozens of families counting on him to expose the truth. He couldn't let them down. Grabbing a nearby chair, he smashed it against the nearest filing cabinet, sending papers scattering across the floor. If they thought they could silence him, they were wrong. Every shred of evidence mattered now. As shouts erupted from the hallway outside, Mr. Beast spotted a ventilation shaft, high up on the wall. It was narrow, but it might be his only way out. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, he climbed onto the table and yanked the grate free. Just as the door burst open and shadowy figures poured into the room, he hoisted himself inside and crawled forward, clutching his phone tightly. Behind him, voices shouted orders. Find him. Don't let him leave this building. For what felt like hours, he crawled through the damp, claustrophobic tunnel, his heart pounding in his chest. When he finally emerged into the cool night air, he collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. For a moment, he simply lay there, staring at the stars, trying to process everything that had happened. Then reality hit him like a freight train. The files on his phone weren't enough. He needed proof, solid, undeniable proof that would hold up under scrutiny, and he needed allies, people who could help him take down Project Renewal once and for all. As he staggered to his feet, a single thought burned in his mind: this isn't over. And somewhere, deep within the hospital, the suited man watched surveillance footage of Mr. Beast escaping. A slow, sinister smile spread across his face. Let the games begin, he murmured, to be continued.